Hi there, welcome back to Fat's Kitchen. I'm getting ready to bake another batch of rusks. Now this is a traditional South African favorite, also known as biscotti, which as you can hear sounds very similar to the Italian word biscotti. Now the process is exactly the same. So you make a batter, you bake it in the oven at 180 degrees. When it comes out the oven, you let it cool, and then you slice it into these little chunks, which is ideal for dunking. And then it gets dried at 100 degrees Celsius. Now let me show you how to enjoy a rusk. Right, so the first step is to cream the butter and sugar together. I have here 375 grams of butter. I will be sure to give the quantities in the description box in grams as well as ounces. And I have 300 grams of sugar, granulated sugar. And I'm going to now blend this with my blender until light and creamy and fluffy. Right, so you can see that it's very light in color and quite creamy and not as dense as the butter was initially. At this stage, I'm going to add my eggs one at a time. So it's 2 eggs, 2 large eggs in total. First egg, and then you make sure to cream the mixture very well after the addition of each egg. Second egg, and again the same process. You blend it in while you scrape down the sides in between and blend again until it's light and fluffy. Just make sure to scrape down the sides of the bowl from time to time, just to make sure that everything is blended very well. Right, once I've added both eggs and creamed it up nicely, I'm going to add half a cup of condensed milk to the mixture and mix it up before I start adding my flour. Right, so we're going to mix in total 1 kilogram of self-raising flour. And I'm going to do that in stages. I'm going to add my dry ingredients alternatively with my wet ingredients. But before I do that, I'm going to add, I just added to the packets just to save myself some dishes, a teaspoon of baking powder, and then a teaspoon or 5 milliliters of salt. And I'll kind of just shake it up a bit, just to mix it in a bit. And so now I'm going to gradually add the flour, so you have clouds of flour all over the place. I'm gradually going to add the flour to my mixture at this stage. down the sides. Now when I see the mixture starts becoming really thick and the mixer is straining, then I will add a little bit of my wet ingredients before adding more of my flour. Right, I'm getting ready to add some of my wet ingredients. Now what has made this my favorite rusk recipe for nearly 20 years now is the addition of vanilla custard, which gives this rusk its distinctive flavor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add half a cup. So this is ready prepared custard. I'm going to add half a cup to my mixture now before I add more of my dry ingredients. I'm now going to add another half a cup of custard. So it's a total of 1 cup ready prepared vanilla custard. You could make your own custard as well if you wanted to. This just makes the whole process a lot quicker by buying the ready-made custard. So I'm going to blend this in and again add more of my dry ingredients. Right, one of the other ingredients is oat bran, and you just use a 1/4 cup, and this is just to add a little bit of texture to the rusk. So 1/4 cup oat bran. I think if you didn't have oat bran, you could probably substitute with oat flakes as well. Right, so I still have quite a bit of flour that I need to add. At some point, the mixer will start straining. And I had my dough hook here somewhere. Let me find my dough hook. So when the mixer starts straining, I'm going to go over to my dough hook. Because you will have quite a firm dough. It mustn't be sticky to the touch because you're going to shape balls and then pack them into your loaf tins. So you can see my mix is bouncing around a little bit. It's taking a bit of strain. So at this stage, I'm going to replace the beater with the dough hook. towards the end, when we're reaching sort of the last stages of our dry ingredients, you're going to add, depending on what you have on hand, either water. I have a little bit of buttermilk that I have left over because I make my own butter, so I use it in baking. The dough, you can see it's a much firmer, it's more of a dough-like texture now, and so I'm only going to add this a little bit at a time. You're looking at about between a quarter cup and a half a cup, but just do it in stages because you want to be left with a dough at the end of the day that is fairly stiff and not sticky. So I'm kind of eyeballing this. Right, if you touch the dough at this stage, you'll see it's not sticky at all. I'm just going to scrape down the bowl one more time, and then I'll be adding my last and final ingredient, which is some slithered almonds. You can use the flaked almonds as well. Obviously this adds more flavor and texture to the rusk. But if you wanted to omit this ingredient, I think the custard flavor would be just as delicious. So it's pretty stiff dough already. So that was 100 grams of slithered almonds. Again, I can see some almonds stuck to the side of the bowl, so I'm just going to scrape it down quickly, just to make sure that all the almonds are included. Right, I've turned my oven on to 180 degrees Celsius, and I have here 2 loaf pans. Now my loaf pans are about 12 centimeters by 30 centimeters. You want to rather use a loaf pan to pack your dough into because that will ensure that it cooks through, it bakes through nicely right through to the middle of the batter. So that's what I'm going to start doing right now. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to sort of form even-sized balls. So I actually weigh them, and I'm going to aim for about 50-gram balls to pack. Let me just check here. I think my scale's a bit off. I'm going to aim for about 50-gram balls, and I'm going to make them slightly sort of oblong and pack this one into the corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit 3 across there. Now, you could just pack the dough into the baking pan as if you were making sort of a bread or a loaf cake, and then just slice it. But I like to have mine looking a little bit sort of mushrooming a little bit at the top. So my rusks have been baking for about 45 minutes and at 180 degrees Celsius, remember? So I'm going to take them out of the oven quickly and put them on my cooling rack to cool. That beautiful golden brown color. In about 5 or 10 minutes, what I will do is I will just tip them out of the baking pan and leave them further to cool on the cooling rack. And then we'll come back and go on to the next step. Right, so once your whole cake rusk has cooled down, you can start either cutting it or breaking. Now, because I've portioned the dough, you can see, although it can be quite tricky, you can sort of pull it apart into rusks. It's not going to be a very neat rusk, but if you like it rugged, why not? So you can see it's pulled apart like that. I place them onto a tray. Okay, I don't like this. This one seems like it wants to break apart. Or you can slice them into rusks. So you can see if you slice, you're going to get a sort of a far neater product. It's a bit tricky now because they have been portioned, you see? Slice them up. Okay, so you fill up a tray not too close together. You fill up your tray with the cake rusk. And then you're going to put your tray into the oven at 100 degrees Celsius. And it will take several hours to dry. How many hours? It depends on how you've portioned your rusk, how big. I mean, this is a fairly large chunk. So large chunks like this could take 3 to 4 hours, whereas skinny little chunks like this would take a lot shorter. So this is going to have to be trial and error. You're going to have to just take it out after about 2-3 hours and test your rusk to see if it's completely dry. Okay, so I'll continue portioning my cake rusk and then I'll pop them into the oven to dry. Right, it's time to take the dry rusks out the oven. I actually baked a batch yesterday and they've been drying. So I'm going to remove it. So as you can see, these are dry to the core. So they are now perfect for storage. Now, The point of drying them out, of course, is to increase the shelf life. So once they cool down completely, you can put them in a container and put them away in a cupboard, and they'll last for weeks. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, goodbye from Fat's Kitchen.